Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Eye on Art evening. My name is Ludmila Cvika, and I am a guest film programmer at iFilm Institute or iFilm Museum. Tonight's special program is the last one organized around the exhibition Béla Tarr till the end of the world. We have opened the exhibition on 21st of January this year, and it's going to be closed in 2 days on the 7th of May. The total number of visitors has reached already 35,000. And now I would like to welcome our special guest of our special evening tonight, of tonight's special discussion. Please welcome one of the greatest authors of the world cinema and one of the most influential film artists of the past 30 years. Next to the very special exhibition in iFilm Institute, we had the chance to see many of his masterpieces, film masterpieces, I mean. Tonight you are going to see Damnation, and tomorrow you have actually the last chance to see his masterpiece, Satan Tango, that is lasting for 7.5 hours. And Béla Tarr will be with us tomorrow for Q&As. Please give a very warm applause to Béla Tarr. Yes. Okay, you will be coming together. Okay. The Film Museum's returning guests, but for the first time in this wonderful new building, Jacques Ranciere, a French emeritus professor of philosophy at Paris 8, one of the continent's leading thinker and author of more than 30 books, and just to name a few of them: Film Fables from 2001, The Future of the Image from 2007, The Emancipated Spectator from 2010, The Intervals of Cinema, and of course, the essay book Béla Tarr, The Time After. Please welcome Jacques Ranciere. Please go. And last but not least, the lady of tonight, the leading Dutch film critic, writer and philosopher, editor-in-chief of the Filmkrant and longtime film critic for the NRC Handelsblad. Dana Linssen is also the author of the essay about Béla Tarr on the occasion of this exhibition and will be the moderator of this evening. Please welcome Dana Linssen.
And it's so wonderful. I hope you can hear me, because this is also a little test talk. It's so wonderful to see the audience packed till the last row in the cinema. We have little over an hour tonight to talk to Jacques Ranciere and Béla Tarr about some of the key themes, moments, actions in Béla Tarr's work as described by Jacques in his book The Time After. We will be screening some clips to make it a bit more lively and vivid. The talk will be live streamed to Ghent in Belgium. So when we open up the discussion with the audience, we will kindly ask you to wait for the microphone so that the people in Ghent will be able to hear your questions as well. So there will be plenty of time for you to ask questions as well. But first, I would like to talk a bit with Jacques Ranciere about his way into cinema, because you're a philosopher, a social and political philosopher, but at the same time you've written a lot about cinema as well. How did you get into writing about cinema?
Well, first, I must say I never, wrote something like a theory of cinema or philosophy of cinema. I don't think that really that philosophy has to be philosophy of, politics, cinema, art, etc. But for me, philosophy is a kind of art of translations, And so basically, what I did, regarding cinema is working first on first on films because I like films, I like films, and when I am in front of a film, I think it would be interesting trying to translate translate what happens on the screen, not to explain it, not to tell people how it is made, no, but to translate in a kind of over mode of presentation of a form of expression, and this is what I try to do because I was rarely satisfied, with what people wrote about cinema. So I thought if I want to read what I like to read, I have to write it myself, So this was the beginning. At the same time, of course, as I was interested in the story, in the history, of the modern regime of art, and cinema was, of course, a very important piece, of this edifice. It was interesting for me to see how cinema was a kind of idea before being an art, and possibly how the reality of cinema as an art, could change, to transform what cinema was as a kind of idea or a kind of utopia, And so basically, I'm interested in films, and how, of course, how films deal with time, and we will have time to speak about it, And I'm interested in cinema as a kind of paradigm of art.
So when you say that you're interested to translate what you see on the screen, that could mean two things: that you're interested in action or that you're interested in meaning.
No, I'm I would say never action, never meaning. No, I'm interested, of the kind of really of sensory events that happen on the screen, and precisely it is never the presentation of a meaning or simply the narration of events. And what is interesting for me is a kind of material fabric or material stuff from which stories emerge basically.
So could you explain a little bit more what you mean by this material fabric from which stories emerge, and also how this material filmmaking got you interested in the work of Béla Tarr?
Well, yes. The first time I saw Béla Tarr films, it was in New York. It was in the MoMA. It was just perhaps 2 weeks after September 11th. So it was a strong context, And in that strong context, I remember first seeing Werkmeister Harmonium, and then seeing Satan Tango with this kind of distension of time, And what interests me in Béla Tarr is, he's speaking about history, about the history of our time, but he's speaking about him by making some kind of movement back, from history, as a narration of the events that happened in our times, to the stuff of history. What I mean, for instance, is that he made those films during the time of communist Hungary, then during the time of the collapse and after the collapse of communism in Hungary. And what is interesting for me is, he was not making a film about the end of utopia, the end of history, the end of ideologies, as was really the fashion at the moment. No, in a way, he was making a kind of movement backward. Not speaking about if we think of Satan Tango, in fact, is a kind of film about the origin of communism, meaning how from a certain form of time, certain form of empty time, certain form of boredom and pettiness, etc., can emerge something as a movement of people who want to do something, want to change. So of course it is very far, from the, let us say, the big utopia, of the new world, the big utopia of the future. But in a way, I think it is precisely about this kind of moment, in time when something new possibly, emerges, and so my idea is, well, so many people, speak about the end of the great expectations, and he is really dealing with expectation itself, how does it happen that in a kind of continuum, of time, which seems to be always the same, well, something can happen, a bifurcation, a deviation, So that was really the basis of my interest, in Béla Tarr film.
Yeah, so the themes of expectation and time we will address later into more detail, but I'm still interested in this idea of material filmmaking. You mentioned it before. How does it work in relation to Béla Tarr's work? What does it make a material?
Material, or I mean, for instance, for me, it's not material in the sense, of the practice of the filmmaker. I rarely speak from the point of view of what the artist, what the filmmaker does, but what is in front of the spectators, So basically, for me, the material stuff, it means really always the duration, the durations, how it creates, some form of duration, which is material in the sense that we feel it. We feel it, and normally, in a film, time is used just well to make the connection between two actions, And in Béla Tarr, it is a contrary, It is really from time as a kind of material fabric, material continuum, that something can emerge. And so I'm interested in this experience of time, which may be a bit violent, because when you first look, at a film like Béla Tarr, if you look at the beginning of Satan Tango, with the cause, well, I think, there is a kind of choice, you can say about 5 minutes, no, enough with both cause, and I want to go outside and see something more refreshing, or you think there is something in it. We have to wait, and when you decide that you wait, so you are really taken into this kind of reinvention of time, because it's a kind of reinvention of time, and of the very relation between time and the fact that something happens,
So, speaking of this first scene of Satan Tango, where we see the cows for 10 minutes, I think. 6 minutes. Okay, you're much better with time than I am, but I don't have a watch. This is also one of the scenes that Béla selected for the exhibition. That's, if you haven't seen it, you should, tomorrow and Sunday. So there we have this scene in a different context, and I know that this afternoon you walked around the exhibition and that Béla maybe gave you a bit of a private tour. Was it different for you to experience that in an exhibition space or in the cinema?
Of course, it's quite different, because in the exhibition space, of course, I know the films, so of course I know what it is about, and what we see, so the cows, we see them, in the room, which is called, if I think correctly, ouverture. So of course it's about the beginnings of the films, but the beginnings which precisely also means how we are introduced to a certain experience of time, And the experience of time may be different, And for instance, there is the beginning of the Turin horse, which is different, because in Turin horse there is this relation to Nietzsche, to a kind of story, There is the beginning of the cable cars, with the cable cars in damnation, And we have this experience of time. So in this case, of course, there is a kind of selection. So Béla Tarr puts the emphasis, and by something, of course, pedagogical in a way. It's very difficult to make an exhibition, without pedagogy. You can make a film without pedagogy, perhaps, but it's very difficult to make a film, an exhibition without pedagogy, because kind of pedagogy of space, because, well, if you think that we see, I think the longest clip that we see is I think the beginning of Werkmeister harmonies, but precisely it has a special room, for itself, with no comparison to other films, But so basically there is something which is another kind of violence, to be in a room with four clips of approximately 4 or 5 minutes, While of course we have in mind the film, we have in mind the continuum, what is before, what is after, And so we have the idea kind of different experience, as if he was wanting, well, to make us film, to make us feel, what's at stake, in his films,
Béla, this afternoon you actually called the exhibition your last film. I hope I can say it's your most recent film, and then we will see what other filmic events will come in the future. I hear two things that I want to ask you. First of all, this idea of violence, of putting selected clips in an exhibition space. Did that feel violent for you as well?
No, it's what. Do you hear me? Yeah. Honestly, I never believed I will do any exhibition in my life. And somehow Sandra and Jaap convinced me to try. And thanks to Amila, Ranciere, Jaap, we did it. And what I felt, okay, I do not do any more movies. It's clear. And please do not ask me about these things anymore. It stopped. But I still have to say something. And if you have a chance to say something on this way, why not? Why not? And I don't believe I will do another exhibition in my life, but I still hunting the new way how I can say something to you, or how can I sharing what I saw and what I see with you. Of course, I'm sharing from my point of view, and of course on my way or on my time, but this is, it's a kind of, you have to feel the world. It's nothing more. You have to feel the people, and you have to feel the life. And I don't know what, and of course you can use your old takes, kind of footages, and you can do a new order with just to showing the same thing on the different way, which is, let's say, happening now.
So for the exhibition, you selected scenes, and they were presented in different ways and in different constellations, I can almost say. But also you made a new shot, because I don't think we can call it a film. And you made two spatial experiences, which is the room where we enter, and which is the room with the tree from the Turin horse.
It's not from the Turin horse,
but
because the real tree is still there.
I know, but that's how imagination works.
Anyway, it is a kind of narration. This exhibition has 8 chapters. The first is the fence. The second is the tree. wind, nature, fucked up shit. And then afterwards you arrive to a warm place after the wind. And then you look out for windows and you can see what is outside. And then kids, and then the kitchen, overtures, eclipse. And by the end, we shot the moment because I had a feeling we have to do a kind of epilogue. This is not a new film. This is just only for this exhibition. You can see this take only as a part of this exhibition. I do not allow anyone to show it separately from the whole exhibition.
So when you say it's kind of a narration, Jacques,
Yeah, it is. It became, even if I'm telling all the time, I don't believe any story. I don't believe anything, but by the end, the brain, the human brain, between the two things, creating kind of story, even if you don't want. You have to find a way how you can do a kind of new narration when you just put together the things. And they have meaning, and of course the meaning is not verbal, because if you are capable to verbalize, in this case, don't touch the camera. No reason. But it has to, let's say, I don't know what, something which stick together.
is this, Jacques, what you mean by something that is beyond or before the story, the narration, the fable, which is this other kind of narration?
Yes, well, I think there are several aspects perhaps to the problem, but first there is the idea of starting not from the narration, but from the kind of time from which narration emerges. But of course, there is always a story, but there is also the possibility. Well, there is a possibility for the spectator, to create his or her own story, and this is, I think, this is what happens. This is what happens, I think, with Béla Tarr's film, and I'm always struck, by. From my point of view, I don't want to interfere in the relation between Las Procrastinarkai and Béla Tarr, But I have always a feeling that in fact, Béla Tarr films is telling the same story, but in a completely different way, and that each of us have to, in a way, to negotiate, between the story you are telling, and the story you are showing, and there is a way in which also in which the characters, also appropriate for themselves the story, create their own story. But I think fascinating, in some shots, and of course there is those famous shots, of the young Hestic, in Satan Tango that you can see in the exhibition, which is a perfect case of the way in which the character creates her own story, and we have to create our own story, precisely with those fragments of possible histories, that he presents. So this is for me the most important thing.
It is possible. It's creating possible histories. What the audience does.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, you mentioned a term like expectation.
Yeah.
A lot of times in talking about Béla's work. What does that exactly mean for you? This expectation.
Well, I spoke of expectation not because it's my own problem, but it was in the relation between the idea, of course, of the end of illusions, and for me, the question is not about the end of illusions, but so the birth of what is called illusion, that would probably be better called something like chimera, And sometimes I'm thinking when I'm looking at Béla Tarr's film, of a novelist who is Joseph Conrad, and Joseph Conrad precisely really, having the same relation with a kind of Schopenhauerian nihilistic background, and thinking that the camera, and being able, to follow an idea, even if it is a shadow, even if it is a swindle, like in Satan Tango, precisely is a way to escape from nihilism.
So we talked about a clip that expresses this feeling of expectation, which is a scene from Damnation, which you will see later in context, where the people are waiting in the rain and looking outside by the bar. Maybe we should show that clip first and then talk a bit more about how we can...
If we have time, I don't know.
Yeah, we have time. We make time. We create time here.
Okay.
So we're going to watch the clip and then maybe we can talk about it later. So we will see the film and the scene later on with the right volume. Béla, could you first talk a little bit about how this scene was conceived, how it came into being?
Somehow it's very strange because this is really a scene. If you take out from the film, who cares? Because the story is working without this. But the film doesn't work without this. You know, how can I say, you know, as Jacques said, the films are going like action cut, information cut. You know, this is the way how the films are going. And of course, my films are working like this too, but you know, what this means information. If I say, for me, a piece of wall, it's also information. It also says something about our life. And if you are spending enough time, again, and you say, this part, this wall is important. And if it is really important, in this case, it's touching you. If it is not important, in this case, I was stupid. The two versions are possible. But, you know, to do this kind of films, somehow for me very easy because I just make a different order between the things, like the usual film dramaturgy or the usual storytelling or the usual way. Because you just show something and then you show another thing which is, let's say, not belongs to the story. Because you can leave the story because all stories are all the time the same. Since the Old Testament, we did it everything there. You can read the best script. It's done. No reason to create new stories. No reason to force yourself typing. I'm telling to the young filmmakers, no reason to typing, sitting in the whole night and believing you are doing something original. Not. Everything is done. Just open the Old Testament, you can read. And it's done. The Holocaust down, the motherfucking down, the brother killing down, and everything is there. The best, really. Please read it. And it's entertaining. And anyway, you know, the question is, when you do something, how you are connecting the things. If you are a writer, you can write about this bottle of water 20 pages. But if you are a filmmaker, you have only just the camera, and you have to show it this. The question is, how do you show this? And which kind of connection has this bottle for the people? Which kind of people are touching, and how is going? And it's coming immediately the question about your casting, your people. What do you want to show, and what do you want to sharing with the people? And when we see this take, I remember in China, there it was a guy, a professor, who said to me, it looks like a hymn. And honestly, when we shot, I had a feeling, it looks like a hymn. and nothing. The people are just looking out. But something happening when you see them. And I don't care about the story. Yeah. Once it was shown accidentally in Brussels, and they forgot, the projection, because this is a separate reel, the fifth reel in the film, and the projectionist forgot. And people enjoyed the film. And you can't believe how I was.
So, Béla, when you say that you were maybe thinking about the hymn when you shot the scene and that someone recognized that, what did you tell the people? Did you give them directions to just look or to think of something?
Madam, can I have some secret?
Yes, please.
Yeah, no. No. I don't tell you what I said to them. But it was working. There it was 300 miners. And they took, I think, surely 300 liters of palinka, and they took I don't know the exact figure how much tap of beer. And but we were friends.
Okay, we keep it that the
Yeah,
secret
the
is
secret
in the spirit.
is secret, okay? I'm
So-
sorry, I cannot sharing with you.
So, Jacques, we talked about expectation in this scene. Could you briefly say something about that?
Well, what strikes me, is the beginning and the end of the shot. Because when you see this water, flowing, over the wall, in an ordinary film, what flows in that way is not water; it's blood. And it is precisely the difference, between a normal story and this kind of story, And of course, I think that in this shot, it is really time. It is really the time when something can be expected. That is really filmed, And in a way, I would say, the wall is a kind of visibility, the visibility of the time of those people, And but we must also think that after that, but of course we already have this music. We can say it is an hymn, but also we can also say it's dance music, So the music is dancing, and the people are absolutely like statues, but afterwards they will dance, But they will dance. But it will what is interesting is the moment when something happens. But in this case, the problem is that what happens is similar to what doesn't happen. Meaning that their farandole, will be in a way the same kind of inertia, than the fact of looking outside, and of course, and this is a kind, for me, kind of point zero, of narration, showing this moment, this time when nothing can happen, and even nothing can be expected, And of course, there are over moments, when precisely you have this kind of movement, when we are on the verge, either it will be repetition, or something will happen,
So when you, yeah,
I just wanted to add one thing. You know what I think? When you see each faces, they are different. They are human beings. And that's all what I want to add, what you said, because it's a very important thing.
yeah, but I think that's also, Béla, that you talked about earlier. in relation to the exhibition is the human or the humanism in what you want to show.
I don't like the word is humanism because it was used too much and mostly from the people who weren't humanist, of course, they like to use it. Because we are different. Everybody is different, and we cannot use it. It's a humanism. It doesn't mean anything. It's too big. But your neighbor who needs help, he is important. If
So-
you read in the Dostoevsky, in the Karamazov, there is a beautiful text when they started explaining to this for the rich lady.
Okay, we will go back to Dostoevsky, or can you tell a little bit what the text is about?
Oh, it's simple. I told you now.
Okay, Jacques, we also talked about this scene in relation to the idea of movement. You already mentioned immobility, and which made me think, like, you talk about the time after, but aren't these scenes also like the time, I don't know, being, or the time?
Well, at the same time, you can say it's the time, it's time being, it's duration. At the same time, it is time before, before something happens. But what is interesting is what will happen, during the party is not. Becomes less interesting. Less interesting, and we have the idea when in the film you have the creature of the main characters that are making their intrigues, their trafficking, okay, and we have the impression, and because there are all those people dancing around, and we have the impression those people who are dancing around, are entirely anonymous, but in each of them there is probably a story which is more interesting, than the story that is told. And what I think interesting is this kind of relation, between the story that is told and all the stories that are untold, And I think it is what modern fiction is about, precisely going back from the one story which is told to all the stories that are untold, but are shown, that are visible in a way.
So this would be a good moment to go to the clip from Satan Tango, where at the end they arrive at the manor, where we have the same ideas of expectation and time and movement, but also in relation to space. So maybe if we can watch the clip from Satan Tango, we'll see how it works there.
Hogy tudták ezt kifűteni azok a jó emberek?
Being there, meet with the people, to drink something with them, to eat something with them, to stay in some horrible countryside rooms, and to be and do the life. Because I'm sorry, everything is important, but the most important thing is the life. And that's what you have it.
Do you have to really, as a filmmaker, live a part of your film? Is that what you're saying?
You know, I never been the same like them, but somehow I have to know everything.
So
And you know, when we were talking about the time, space, and some other things, but we have to talk about the people. And if you touch the camera and to put somebody in front of your camera, you have to know them. You have to understand them, and you have to feel them, and you have to know, because you know, if you show real people, real human beings, and if you do perfectly your work, they became naked. And you show them how their personality. And this is the main issue, because that's the point when you can see on their eyes how they really feel, what they really think. And this is, you know, this is not a job. This is not a work. This is only your sensibility. You have to find the key, and we are all different.
Hogy tudták
And we
ezt
have to
kifűteni
find
azok a
the
jó
key
emberek?
for everybody. Someone needs some caresses. Someone prefer if you beat them. You know, we are different. And to find a way to keep them. Everybody's religious.
and they are supposed, well, when they are, the place where they arrive, is a place where they are supposed, really to create a kind of new collective farm, a new collective life, and of course, it's a swindle, But what is important, the swindle in itself, it is the fact that they have been put in motion, and there is there are those words of the swindler, saying that they cannot live without honor and dignity, and this is how the swindle works. And but at the same time, what is important is the way precisely this story of swindle, they appropriate it for themselves. And why am I really fond of this of this sequence? Yes, because they arrive, at the place, at this place, and of course there is nothing. It's just a kind of old, devastated manor, with all these dilapidated walls and so on. And you should expect them, in a normal story, to shout out, we have been swindled, we have been done, etc., etc. But no, they don't do it. They look. They look. And they try. They are not. They are not at this moment. Comparing. What has been promised to them to what they find. No, they are looking. They have really made the step. To get into the unknown and into the unexpected. Precisely, there is this kind of step. Further. No more expectation, but getting into the unexpected. And so, what I found fascinating first, so with the lady with her lantern, and then with all those faces, in the dark, and we can, in a way, compare those faces with the faces, of the people looking out of the cafe, in the first clip, and of course, it's a very different way of looking. And what is important is that they have all those eyes, looking a little above, above themselves, and we don't know what they are looking at, but it looks like, they are trying precisely to take the measure of the unknown. Something has happened to them, and it's difficult for them to know what has happened, but they try, so there is something absolutely new, and they are trying, to make a kind of new identification of the situation, and to think, okay, how can we really, in a way, lift up, ourselves to the level of what happens, and so this is what I find really so strong in this in this sequence, and this kind of course of rupture. Of course, we could comment a lot of things, of course, the all, the animals, etc. But and the all will appear, at the end, so of the episode, and in a very fascinating way, and the all is a kind, in a way, is a philosophical bird, so ironical bird, But here there is no irony, Really, there are people to whom something unexpected happens, and they try to take the measure of it, and I think really it's fantastic.
So, meanwhile, are there any questions?
There is a question,
yeah,
somewhere in the
here in the middle,
in the
so
fourth row, I think, approximately. Here.
Here's the.
Here.
Oh, no.
No,
Please
no,
ask
here.
your question, and then we'll move the microphone over
Okay.
there.
I think most of us remember.
Make it a bit louder.
I think most of us remember a time before we knew language, when we were so small that we did not know the meaning of words. And when you grow older, everything is covered by a layer, smaller almost, by a layer of words. And my impression of the films of Béla Tarr, more than any other film, is that he brings us back to this stage where we still didn't know words.
Thank you. I can't say anything.
Would you care to comment on that, or
Well, I think precisely the task of people like me, precisely, well, is trying to put words, to put words, precisely, on what happens before the words, without words, because precisely what is interesting is to translate an experience, and of course you can see, well, there is unnameable, there is unnameable, indicible, but what is interesting precisely is trying to create some kind of discourse, some kind of narration for the indicible or the unnameable.
okay? So
And it's stronger, and I would say that unnameable or indicible is stronger, when you can, in a way, put words, in front of it, and of course, not the right words, precisely what is interesting. In translation, it is never the right word.
but I think both Béla and I are big fans of your book. So you found the right words.
No, I'm fishing for compliments anyway.
No, but
I'm coming from the picture side.
so there was another.
Anyway, there it was some other
question
questions
here.
here.
Question
Yes.
on the fourth
I have
row.
a question for the maestro, Béla.
Where are you?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yes,
You
I
are
can
in the
stand
shadow.
up. All
Okay.
right.
No, anyway, if
Ah,
you are
it's okay.
standing up, I do not see your face.
All right. Can hear my voice. I can raise it
Yeah,
up a bit.
that's what I do.
I have a question. When you say you put somebody in front of the camera, a person, and you see them naked, do you take, or you feel you need to take a bit of responsibility
Yes,
about
of course. That's what I wanted to tell you. When I call to somebody and I ask, please work with us and please show yourself for the other people, and it gives you a huge responsibility. It's out of question because he or she just gave her or himself. And you have to feel all the time the border, you have to protect them, and you never, you cannot humiliate them. That's what I said, and that was really, let's say, the first point, in my life. It's an ethical question. It's a moral question. Because if you are doing films to protect the human dignity, you cannot hurt anyone. Anyone. Surely. Never, ever.
There's a question on the top, and then there's a question here in the front.
Here, Sanne.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then we
yes.
have a question in the front.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for your talk. Monsieur Béla, I was wondering, this sensitivity you have for human being and this understanding, how is it, it's overwhelming. So how is it possible, or tell me, or tell us more, why did you decide to stop making movies? Is it only because of the technological, and if not, I'm wondering.
I was begging you to do not ask me this question
I'm
because
a big fan, I'm sorry.
if you have Google, you can
No, I
read
know.
100 times.
I know,
And do you want to force me to say by my mouse? Okay.
not
I do
necessarily.
just really the last time in my life. But you have to listen. You know what? I was doing this shit 34 years, film by film, step by step. I went further. I understood more the life, more the people, and of course, more and more. I make it more and more pure movies. And by the end, yeah, and I just wanted to tell you an additional information. in Sunday will be the day, the 40th anniversary of my first shooting day of the family nest. And just let you know. And you know, during of this time, I went through a lot of things, and I decided I just arrived at the end. When you have a feeling, you said everything, your form and style is ready, and the whole package is ready. Take it or leave it. And that was my decision, and I do not regret. And because I can use this language or this form, repeating something. You know, the filmmaker is a very nice bourgeois job. You have good stuff in your life. But the other hand, you have responsibility. And you have to find another way how you can say what you want to say. And thanks to the eye, I could do this exhibition with Amila, Marentje, Jaap, Sanne, and Sandra, and everybody who was working in this project. Thanks to them, because it was a great chance to create something which is not film, to do something without camera. I'm very grateful about this. I'm sorry, I cannot say more. No technical issue or no money issue or no political issue, because the politicians are temporary and they will disappear. The money is coming and leaving, and you know, it's technical things is who cares. And now the kids you can do a film with your iPhone and you can do everything. You don't need so much money for a film, really. It's not this kind of issue. I hope it was clear.
Okay, we have one more question here, and then I think we have time for one more question after that. So, the lucky
before I ask my
But there are
question,
several people asking.
before I ask my question, I'd just like to say that I'm very thankful for this moment to experience this talk and be here. The question is, as a filmmaker, we often project our own, we're busy with our own life, our own stories, knowing the fact
Huge
that...
mistake.
Sorry?
Okay.
Knowing the fact that you also often had encounter with the actors or people in front of the camera, and having the respect for their personality and keeping the responsibility for their nakedness. Mm-hmm. I'm still wondering, how do you deal with your own autobiographical questions or stories? How do you deal with that and still try, how do you deal not to project, or do you project on the actors? How do you do that?
When you said you are too busy with yourself, and this is the biggest mistake what you could do if you are a filmmaker, because your job is not to listening for yourself. First of all, you have to learn the life. You have to understand the logic of the life. You have to understand the situation. You have to understand what is happening between two persons and what is happening under the table between them, what is the tension, and how, and if you are listening only for this. In this case, you will find yourself, because the way where you put your camera, you put to here, to there, or there, this is your decision. And this is the way how you show your position and how you became a part of this. I told you, watch the life, transforming and sharing. but the life. Who cares about you? Who cares about me? Nobody. Really. Nobody. This is a very, very old-fashioned shit to listening for ourselves. Sorry. Even if I'm older than you.
Can I have a little addition? Actually,
Sure.
I was more wondering about the questions that we have as personal questions.
Of course, you have to have doubt. If you don't have doubt, you are a criminal. If you know everything and if you are sure, in this case, that's the worst. You have to have doubt. You have to know. Yeah, of course. When I was all the time in the behind the camera, of course, I wasn't sure what I'm doing is good. I had doubt, but I had all the time a feeling, but anyway, I have to do on this way. Can you believe when the crew members started to revolting in the middle of the shooting of the Shatan Tango because they could not believe they are still shooting at the same movie. You know, it's 2.5 years and they have to go every day and to do the same shit. Middle of the Hungarian lowland, full of mud. And why they have to do this shit? Of course, they do not understand. They said to me, it is impossible someone will go and watch this shit. And it's really. And I was just stubborn. And I said, yeah, you are right, but we have to shoot this. You know, this is how, of course, he was right. It's 7 hours, a 7.5 hours long movie doesn't exist. It's okay, but it's no reason not to do. You don't have rules now. You are free. Because, you know, it's everything which it was about the filmmaking or the way of the thinking. It's over, fucked up, done. You know, you are free. Feel free. That's what I want to tell you. And feel free. Do the life. And partly shoot a little.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I see so many hands now. I see one hand here in the middle and one hand in the back. So we do these 2 questions and then we're gonna get kicked out. But
We are not kicked out because we will do a screening.
yeah.
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Tarr. The thing I like very much
Where
about...
are you?
I'm here.
Okay.
The thing I really like about your movies and what you are also famous for is the long shots and the moving camera. And sometimes it reminds me a bit of, you know, this choice of using a moving camera instead of editing of Moore now or other directors. And I was really curious at how you arrived at this point that not editing but a moving camera and long shots was your language. How did you decide that, or how did you discover that?
I told you it came up step by step. If you see now, we were talking today about the family nest, but there is also, even if you compare it now for the Turin horse, something is different. But you know, the main issue is the same. And that it's already long monologues. And when I just kept someone's face long time, You know, how, yeah, and slowly how can I say, yeah, I understand I had to involve the nature. I have to involve the objects, animals, you know, the rain, wind, and a lot of things which is part of our life. And how, you know, how you became older, you understand more and more the world, and you are watching the whole. You know, it's became more important for you, the whole world, instead of listening for the story or for a concrete stuff. Of course, the middle of this stuff all the time, the human being. This is which it was all the time. It's not changed. But slowly, film by film, the takes became longer and then moving more and more. That's all. It wasn't any turning point. You can't believe I woke up in the morning and I decided, okay, now from now long takes, moving with the camera. It slowly moved.
Okay, we had the last question up there. But then, of course, those of you who come back tomorrow for Satan Tango will have time to ask questions again.
Yeah, we can discuss after the Satan Tango. Hey, it was the last time.
Hello, I'm right at the back.
Hi.
Hi. It was really wonderful, Béla, to hear you talking about the ethical and moral relationship with the people you work with. And to me, that's also a big theme in your work, in Jacques Ranciere's work. In The Emancipated Spectator specifically, there's a lot of dealing with this question of the ethical relationship between the artwork and the spectator, and what the artwork is asking of you as a spectator. So I was wondering if either or both of you could talk about that in the context of Béla Tarr's films, what the films are asking of you as a viewer, what responsibility they're giving to you.
If I hear you, huge. Honestly, because I never want to be a prophet, and I never want to tell you to do this or this or this. I just showed what I think. Really, believe me, but I know I cannot say stupid things. And oh yeah. Better if Jacques says something. He is much cleverer than me.
No, I think no. There are different things. I think that is what Béla Tarr asks us to do. You know, in terms of responsibility, there is, but also for my part, you know, my first responsibility in a way as a spectator, you know, was trying to in a way to help create the spectator of Béla Tarr's film, you know, because the point is about time, you know. And I remember the first article I wrote about Satan Tango, you know. It was in the case of cinema, you know. Well, and it was very kind of very precise context, you know, because they were showing kind of little retrospective and showing Satan Tango perhaps during 2 weekends, you know. And they said perhaps if there is an article we can show it, 2 weeks more, And well, but behind the anecdote, there is a question of really, obliging us, to become different spectators, spectators able to stay, during 7 hours. I remember at the end of my article, there was the kind of provocation, saying if you cannot stay during 7 hours, looking at the rain in Béla's film, so you have nothing to do with art, And I think it is the same. It is the same, in fact, in a way, the responsibility of the filmmaker, in relation to the life he's speaking about, and also the relation that I assume as a critic, I'm not a critic, so, thinking, well, we must make really the best to create the kind of spectators for films that are really creating a different sense of time, a different sense of humanity, and really, I think it is a big issue. It is a big issue, now today, and this is why I mostly spoke about filmmakers who are supposed to be really difficult filmmakers, to say you must take time, and in a way, the first ethical, commandment is, well, you must take time, and I think this is very important, also because those films are about boredom, and what I think, and boredom is very important issue, in art, in a way, modern fiction started, in 19th century when writers, decided to deal with boredom of the poor people. Poor people were not supposed, to be bored. They had no time, And there was a moment when they decided that they had time, or they made that experience of time, boredom. When I look at Béla's films, I'm always thinking of this literary sequence, in Flaubert, Madame Bovary, and she is precisely behind the window, and nothing happens, and there are some noise and people passing by, behind the windows, and things like that. The experience of boredom, and in a way, modern fiction and forms of modern art really were born with the experience of those people who could feel boredom. Why there was no reason for them. They had to work. They had to take care of the children, take care of the cooking, take care of so many things. And at a moment, they could feel boredom. Well, so this is of course for the part of the characters, But well, we must really be able, to be bored in a way, in front of a film, and to expect, and to live really this experience of time, go until the end. So, well, there is in the title of the exhibition, until the end of the world. I don't like so much, the idea of the end of the world, of the apocalypse. But I like the idea.
Still end of
the
world.
Till. Okay,
till. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
It goes till.
Yes, of course. But precisely, I like this shift precisely. Not speaking about the end of the world, but in a way, till. So what we can do precisely, in the meantime, of course, there are so many things that we can do in the meantime.
You know what I can add for this? People are afraid from the monotony because they are doing. I don't want to use the word boredom. Let's say monotony.
Okay.
Do you agree?
No, I agree. I agree.
Okay.
Of course,
Okay.
it has a different connotation, but okay.
Anyway, because let's say we are doing our daily life at the monotony. It's something about the Turing horse, and we believe every day is same, but not. Every day we became older, weaker, even I can tell the youngest, because, and each day is different, even if looks like the same. And by the end, till end of the world, okay?
Béla, Tarr, Jacques Ranciere, thank you so much
Jacques
for
Ranciere.
taking your time. Jacques Ranciere, Béla, Tarr.
Thank you.